So recently I was thinking that I wanted to buy or build a new varmint rifle for rabbits or squirrels or whatever small game I might choose to hunt. And I was thinking I wanted to get a nice shiny new 22 caliber, something with a threaded barrel that I could ultimately get a suppressor for, or something along those lines. And after looking at a lot of what's out there on the market, I just didn't find anything that I especially liked, particularly at the price point I was looking to spend. And that's when it occurred to me that I already own what is perhaps my favorite 22 caliber rifle of all time anyway. And that's the trusty Ruger 1022 semi-automatic. In fact, this is perhaps the first rifle I ever even fired, acquired by my father in the 1980s and eventually given to me. And we could get into the whole argument about things used to be made of better quality back in the day, but when it comes to the 1022, for the price, they definitely used to be made a little bit better. All wood stock, you had metal pieces everywhere instead of kind of the polymer plastic brackets and things you often get nowadays. Unless you want to spend a lot of money, you're pretty much going to be getting a synthetic stock of some sort. Anyway, not really the point of this video. The point is, I already had a great 22 caliber rifle, and it only took a little bit of modification to turn it into the exact sort of varmint rifle I was looking to have. And while sort of recent YouTube policy prohibits me from actually showing the installation or modification of this rifle or its accessories, I can show you what I've done now that it's already done. The first thing I had to do was figure out what to do with the barrel. Like I said, I wanted a threaded barrel that could accommodate a suppressor. So I ended up just getting a new barrel with a threaded end directly from Ruger. They have a few different lengths and finishes and varieties that'll fit this rifle, and I got the one that looked the most like the original barrel on this. It did add 2 inches to the length of the barrel, but that's okay. Next, I wanted some optics. A nice Bushnell scope is exactly what I wanted to do, and it was pretty straightforward, and really all I had to do was buy one of these little cantilever mounts that is made specifically to contour and mount to a 1022. From there, it's as simple as screwing the little rings in place to secure the scope and sighting it in. As for the suppressor, well, I did consider going through the whole ATF rigmarole of getting a suppressor made specifically for a 22 caliber. But then I remembered some years ago I already went through all of the ATF rigmarole to get a suppressor that happens to be made for a .223 or 5.56 AR-15 rifle. And as everybody knows, the difference between a 22 caliber and a .223 caliber is almost no difference at all. The .223 is just the tiniest bit wider. So there's no reason that a suppressor made for a .223 wouldn't work exceptionally well on a 22, if not be pretty overkill. Now there are some stated downsides to using a suppressor not made for a 22 with a 22 with regards to how dirty a 22 caliber rimfire rifle or cartridge tends to be, and the nature of how the suppressors are constructed for something like this is such that you can't really take it all apart and clean out all the baffles and everything as thoroughly as you could with some of them that are made for a 22 caliber where everything can be unscrewed and disassembled. But anyway, that's not really a big concern of mine. I can get the thing cleaned out very thoroughly if I need it to be. In the meantime, it's been serving as an absolutely wonderful suppressor for this 22, particularly when I use subsonic rounds. But now here's the thing, using the subsonic rounds with the suppressor, this rifle is practically silent. And I say practically because you still hear the mechanical sounds of the rifle cycling. But that's all you hear. Now, one thing I was a little curious about, when you put a suppressor on a rifle, it's said to reduce the muzzle velocity of the projectile by some small amount. And of course, when you use subsonic rounds, there's a little less powder in it, which again results in fewer feet per second on the bullet that you're firing. And in my reading online, I feel pretty confident that even with the suppressor, even with subsonic, I'm gonna have absolutely no problem quickly and ethically dispatching a small critter such as a squirrel or a rabbit with this setup. But it's a beautiful day out, the sun is shining, and I thought, why not do a little bit of an experiment? Nothing especially scientific, just a little experiment to see if I shot this rifle at some 2x4s, how many would the round go through? And would there be any difference between suppressed, unsuppressed, subsonic, or not subsonic? So we're gonna shoot a few rounds in each of those configurations and see how many 2x4s we can get through. My prediction it'll be about the same for all of them. But in any case, if it goes through even a 2x4 or 2, it's gonna be able to go through a squirrel. So repurposing what used to be an old skateboarding ramp, I'm now gonna use it just as sort of a bookcase or shelf to hold up the 2x4s that I'm gonna be shooting at. Nothing too high-tech here, folks, but as the environmentalists might say, reuse, reduce, recycle. And in this case, we're recycling an old skateboard ramp into a shooting target. First, we're gonna be shooting the non-subsonic ammo. These are some Winchester 22 Wildcat high velocity rounds. These are 40 grains, and the box doesn't state how many feet per second they are, but I guess I can look that up and find out later. Anyway, we'll start with the suppressor off the rifle. And again, YouTube won't let me show you simply unscrewing a suppressor from a rifle, but I can show you the rifle once that's already happened. Okay, unsuppressed, non-subsonic. They seem to have gone nicely into the first 2x4, all 3 of them, but I'm seeing that my first shot of the 3 didn't actually make it all the way through the first 2x4, and I'm thinking it's because there's a knot right there that I shot into. The second 2x4, my other 2 shots went clean through. And the third 2x4, it looks like one of them got lodged in it pretty good. The other one started to come out of the back and is just poking out. And I can see that it pushed a little bit into the fourth 2x4, but it did not actually go all the way through the third. So interestingly, I'm thinking that unsuppressed, non-subsonic is only gonna reliably go through 2 of the 2x4s, unless of course one of them has a knot in it. I'm actually a little surprised. I would have thought that they would have gone through at least 3 2x4s with no problem. But anyway, we'll get this set up again and try it with the suppressor and see if that makes any difference. Right off the bat, these 2 2x4s are kind of stuck together, so I'm thinking that we've got some bullets that came partway through and essentially nailed the 2x4s together, and that's exactly what happened. And fascinatingly enough, none of them went clean through the second 2x4. I can see that they all went partly in, but pretty much flattened out and completely stopped very early into that second 2x4. So same bullets, but suppressed, we can't even get through 2 2x4s. That's more velocity loss than I would have expected, but that's why we do these experiments, or something. So I'm gonna reset with some fresh 2x4s, and we're gonna see how these subsonics do. Okay, so the subsonics I'm using today are Remingtons, and they are also 40 grain, and according to the box, they are 1,050 feet per second. Now that's of course gonna be slower than the non-subsonics, but similar grain, we're gonna find out how they do. And once again, we're gonna start off not suppressed, and I am a little bit curious to see how quiet these are without the suppressor, because I haven't actually shot it that way yet. And I guess I'll save myself from walking all the way back down there right away, and I'll do the suppressed variation of this subsonic test right now with the other 2x4s that I set up down there. I don't know how that sound comes through on camera, I guess, until I start reviewing this footage, but I can't even tell you how quiet that is. The only sound that this thing makes with subsonic and the suppressor is the mechanical cycling of the rifle's action and the sound of the bullets impacting those 2x4s. All right, on the left, we've got subsonic, unsuppressed, and we've got penetration all the way through the first 2x4. And one of them got lodged right away in the second 2x4. The other one almost made its way through. I can see it poking out of the back pretty good, but it did not make it all the way through. And for the subsonic suppressed, well, I can see that one of them just started to come out of the back, but stopped dead in its tracks as soon as it hit that second 2x4. We appear to have full penetration on the second and third shot. That first one did dent the 2x4, but there's barely even any little bit of lead on there. And the second two, well, as I guess I expected, both got wedged into that second 2x4. That middle shot made it a little deeper in, and I can see that it started splintering and cracking the back of this 2x4, but definitely didn't push its way through. So, you know, maybe not too many huge revelations from having done this test. One thing that I'm pretty surprised about is that the non-subsonic rounds wouldn't make it through 3 2x4s. But I know that a non-subsonic round will easily take care of any manner of small game, which I guess brings me encouragement considering the subsonic and even the suppressed tests that I did definitely went easily through the first 2x4. The configuration that I want to ultimately use, which is suppressed with subsonic, did only maybe marginally worse than the best case scenario of not subsonic, not suppressed. So I guess I'm coming out of this experiment more or less in the same place as where I went in, and that's expecting that this configuration is going to do me perfectly fine for hunting rabbit or squirrel or similar. So I guess that's about it. And if you didn't find the experiment itself especially riveting or exciting, at the very least, hopefully you found some part of it interesting with regards to how a suppressed .22 caliber rifle works or functions or sounds with and or without subsonic ammo. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future shooting and maybe shooting experiment videos. And consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/Great Lakes Country, where there are no YouTube policies about showing the modifications of firearms. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.